Hey, what's up guys? Prince Donnell here, founder of the Jumping Jack Tax franchise. And today I'm going to be bringing to you guys how to run your numbers from back to front. So if you've been following my YouTube channel for a while, you know I started off talking about, the things you need to do before starting an LLC. And then I broke down a video talking about the 5 different bank accounts that you're going to need when opening that LLC. But a big part of what I also spoke about was running your numbers from back to front. Meaning before you go ahead and start this business, are you running your numbers to understand what your profits are going to look like beforehand to even see if it's worth your time? I think sometimes we go into businesses and we have a certain lifestyle, right? Like if I want to make $75,000, $100,000, if that's the case, do you know how much product or services you need to sell in order to reach that $75,000, $100,000 or more that you want to hit in that year? And today we're going to be talking about that. And a lot of it is going to be the things that I've done from experience, some of the things I've been taught, and what really goes on in my mind as a numbers person when breaking down my numbers all the way to the bottom so I can have a clear and defined goal. And through this, you're going to learn as well how to actually establish a daily goal for yourself. I think that as business owners, you need to have a daily revenue goal, so that if you're not hitting it, there's an issue and you need to figure out how to solve it. And if you don't have that, then you could just be running around stuck in place and not realizing why your business isn't growing. We see it so much, and it's the main reason why businesses fail: lack of revenue. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to use our whiteboard, and I'm going to be going through some really cool illustration with you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about running your numbers from back to front. We're going to use the whiteboard here, and I also have my calculator as well, because I am not a mathematician that could just do calculations in my head all of the time. I want to be accurate, and I think that as entrepreneurs, we got to be very accurate with our numbers here. We don't do round numbers. We use precision when figuring out what our profitability is and what goal we want to reach. Okay, so always use a calculator no matter how smart you actually are. Smart people use calculators. So let's go ahead and get into it. When running your numbers from back to front, this is before you start the LLC, okay? This is before you make the decision to even launch and do your grand opening. Let's figure out how much this product actually is going to make. Okay, so we're going to use a product-based business. Let's just say that you're selling t-shirts, and I'll use this as an example. First and foremost, when running your business from back to front, first thing you want to know is, how much do I want to make? That's the most important part, because your lifestyle really decides what type of business that you want to go into, because clearly if you have a passion for a product or service, it's only as passionate as how much money it generates. And if it doesn't generate enough, then, you're going to end up quitting and moving on to something else or going back to the old thing. So we want to go into this clearly defining how much we want to make here. Okay. So how much do I want to make? So let's say I want to make, let's just say $100,000 per year. I want to make $100,000 for the year with this business. And I'm going to say gross, because profit, you're going to have to do a lot more in gross. But let's just say I want to make $100,000 a year gross. Now let's first talk about that part. If I want to make $100,000 per year gross, what goes on in my head, I want to break down how much that is monthly. I want to break down how much that is weekly, and I also want to break it down daily. Okay, so I'm going to use my calculator. I'm going to divide 100,000 into 12, and I'm going to put it here on the whiteboard as well. Let's do 100,000 into 12, and that is going to give us $8,333 that we need to make every single month. Okay, now that I know that, what I'm going to do at this point on is, I'm going to do $8,333. I'm going to divide that now by 30 days. Okay, so now if I divide that by 30 days, that's now giving me $277 that I need, $77 and about 76 cents. So $277.76 per day that I need to make, right? So this is what I like to call my daily goal. This is what I need to make every single day, $277. We'll break down a little deeper though on this number, but this is my gross number that I need to make. Okay, my gross number. Now that I have that, what I also want to do is I want to do $277, and I'll also multiply that 277 times 5 days a week, because if I work 5 days, then let's just say that I need to, well, I'm sorry. I'm going to do 277, and I'm going to do that by 7 days. So if I do 277, I do that by 7 days, then that means I need to, per week, make $1,939, okay? Roughly $1,940. So this now tells me that my weekly goal is $1,939. My daily goal is about $277 that I need to make. This is the number that you need to focus on now. This is the number that I need to say, okay, with this, if my business is not hitting this daily goal or this weekly goal, then there's clearly a problem based off of the goal that I set forth for how much revenue I want the company to generate for the year. You know, you said 100,000, but maybe the company doesn't generate 100K. Maybe it generates 70, 60, whatever it may be. But through doing that formula now, you're going to be able to establish a trend, and that trend is going to tell you at that point, okay, how much revenue is this company actually making? So maybe the numbers are a little smaller, but they're consistent. Now you're able to do that same calculation I just gave, and let's say it wasn't 277, but you're consistently hitting like 180. Now you can do it backwards, okay? If I'm hitting 180 daily, 180 at 7 days a week is this. I'm doing about this per week. Okay, the business should project to hit about $60,000 this year based off of that goal. So look at the consistency in the numbers. But when you're starting though, there's nothing wrong with just throwing a number out there. You know, if it's 100,000, 150, 200, whatever it may be. I don't like to use the word being realistic because I don't believe that there's a certain thing as being realistic. I've seen crazy things happen based upon the entrepreneur and the team. So I don't know. But throw a number out there, run the numbers all the way down, and then you'll be able to figure out exactly what your goal is. And then you focus on that goal until the numbers begin to tell you otherwise. Okay. Now that we know how much we actually want to make, I'm going to erase this here, and I'm going to put that goal. I'm going to put that goal now right here at my top. Now I have my goal. Okay. So the goal is 1,900. I'm just going to round up 1,940 per week. About 280 per day. Now I have that here. I'm going to leave this right at the top so I can always remember this number at all times. All right, now that we have our goal of 1,940 per week and 280 per day, let's talk about the actual product now. Like I said, I have a t-shirt business, right? So with that t-shirt business now, sorry for my handwriting, guys. I was not the best in the handwriting area. But now with my t-shirt business now, I got to say to myself, okay, how much do I actually want to sell this t-shirt for? And is it going to get me to my goal? This part is important. And the reason why is because I see a lot of people moving into business. They just say, hey, I'm going to sell my t-shirt for $15 and don't take into account their goal that they just set forth. And also don't take into account the expenses that are necessary when it comes to reaching that goal as well. This is important. You have to now, you now got to see, okay, if I'm selling it for this amount of money, how many units do I got to sell in order to reach my goal? And is it worth my time? Like I said in the beginning, it may not even be worth your time to do it if the profit margins are so low. And we're going to break this all the way down to the T so that you have a full understanding of what I mean by that. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, if I have myself a t-shirt biz now and I say, you know what, I'm going to throw a number out there for my shirts. I am going to sell my shirts retail. I'm going to sell them retail for $25 per shirt. I'm not going to get into the details of the colors, the different designs. I don't care about all of that. That's for you to decide. I'm just selling my t-shirts for $25 per shirt. Okay. Now, if I'm selling them for $25 per shirt, if I'm going to simplify this now, let's just say the expense, the actual expense per shirt. And what I mean by expense per shirt is how much it costs you to create the shirt. How much it costs me, like the material. If the material that it costs me to create the shirt, let's say it's $10 per shirt. Okay, so we don't gotta be geniuses to realize that my gross profit from there is now 15 per shirt. Now, I didn't get into the next phase of what I'm going to talk about yet, of breaking down further expenses that you actually have. But if I just keep this on a simple, like very, very simple at the top, then I know it's $15 per shirt, which now tells me at that point at 15 per shirt, how many shirts do I got to sell in order to reach my gross revenue of $280 per day and then to reach my weekly goal. So basically now I can put this into units, my per day goal. Okay, so I know that in order to get to my per day goal, all I got to do is $280 in revenue divided by 15. So that's going to tell me now at 280 divided by 15, I need to sell about 19 shirts per day. That's how many I got to sell per day. And I could do the same thing, the per week goal. Now my per week goal, same thing. 1,940 divided by 15. That's going to tell me I need to do about 129 shirts per week. As you can see now, this gives you a very clear understanding of how many units that you actually have to sell. Okay, I know if I need to hit 100,000 in revenue, here's how many shirts I got to sell per day. Here's how many shirts I got to sell per week. That's vitally important because now you're not just going into this thing just saying, okay, I want to do 100 grand. No, you need to know how much do I got to sell? Because then that tells you what you have to do from a marketing perspective now. Okay, if I need to sell 129 shirts per week, what type of marketing do I got to do to get 129 shirts off the shelves each week? Am I just going to post it online and expect people to buy? Well, odds are that's not going to happen for you to sell 129 units. You're going to have to learn some marketing. You're going to have to learn how to run ads. You're going to have to learn how to get out there and get those units sold on a weekly basis. Not to mention, you got to start accounting for inventory. All of these different things you got to take into account now. So when you're throwing a number out there, how much revenue that you want the business to make a year, you got to now look at it now. Now I have the ability to be a bit more realistic, right? Like I told y'all in the beginning, you don't got to be realistic with throwing that yearly goal out there. But now when you start looking at the amount of units that you're going to have to sell, or if you're a service-based business, the amount of customers that you're going to have to service, you now can say to yourself, okay, let me be realistic now with the skills that I have around marketing, or if it's a service-based business, the labor that I have access to, same with product, the labor, right? Do I have enough labor and do I have enough marketing necessary in order to maintain 129 units per week? Realistically, if you don't, then now you go back to the drawing board, go back to step one, like I said, and drop that gross number down and say, what realistically can I do as of today? Or I need to figure out how to innovate to figure out how to make that 100,000 realistic based off of what I may need in order to hit that 129 per week, right? It's giving you more insight on the business. You're not, again, going into this thing just swinging without knowing what you're swinging at. So now we're back and now we know our goal is 1,940 per week, 280 per day. Now I'm going to put over here my units as well. So now my units are 19 shirts, 129 shirts. Boom. Now I got a clear goal now. I'm feeling good about this. I feel really good. But now it's time to get into the deeper things because, of course, it's never just this easy, right? We never just focus on the gross number because the gross number doesn't mean that I'm actually generating enough profitability for the business itself. These are gross numbers, right? So now let's take into account, okay, I know that my t-shirt was $25 per shirt. And then I know that the actual expense per shirt, the expense per is 10. And then I know my gross profit equals 15 per shirt. Now I know that. Okay, so now I know that I have a $15 gross profit, right? Now that I know that I have a $15 gross profit, we now got to start breaking this up because this is just gross. This is still not telling me what my profit margin is if I'm actually still in the green. You said you wanted to make 100 grand, but regardless of that, there's companies generating 100,000 a year, but they're still in the negative. They're just making 100,000, but still broke. And that's totally possible. You made 100, but you spent 150. And either way, the business still sucks if you're 50,000 in the negative. So again, to take it back, your number of how much you wanted to make gross still doesn't, it's a great number to start with, but we still got to go deeper now, right? We still got to keep peeling back these layers to understand if we are in profit, if we are in the green and in the green enough to be able to even pay ourselves for actually working the business, to be able to hire people, right? So let's go a little deeper now. Now that I have $15 here, this is the 15 I have after the shirt was paid for. Okay, now with my 15 that I have left, I got to start breaking down a few different things to take into account if this is going to work for me. The first thing that I have to take into account, more importantly, are taxes. I got to take taxes into account because the IRS, they want their money, unfortunately. So I'm already just going to say, you know what? I'm going to put about 30% per side. I'm going to put 30% aside off of every single sale. That's a roundabout number just so you can be safe. And that's not to necessarily say it's going to be 30. You could end up having a lot of deductions and etc. Write-offs, who knows? But that means now I got to put about $4.50 aside per shirt, okay, for my taxes that I want to put aside. $4.50 per shirt. Now, what I also want to do as well, I also need to have my marketing, right? Because there's no way you're going to continue to sell all of these shirts if you're not putting marketing aside. It's very important. So what I need to do is I need to take about at least 10 to 15% of this for my marketing dollars. And I would even say 15%. So I'm going to move that to 15%, meaning that $2.25 per shirt needs to go into my marketing account. And by the way, just a quick update. If you're trying to figure out what I'm doing at this part, I dropped the video on the 5 bank accounts that you're going to need to open in order to run your LLC. This is what I'm actually doing right now, talking about the tax side, talking about the marketing side, the innovation. These are all things that you're going to have to put to the side in order to be able to really understand your profitabilities from that point. So watch that video. So I'm putting $450 aside for taxes. I'm putting $225 aside for my marketing. And then I also want to have my innovation as well. So with my innovation, and by the way, innovation just basically means that, okay, I have one shirt, but you got to also think as well, how can a business afford to get more shirts in the future, right? Because right now, all you're doing is with this $10 that you're getting back per shirt, all you're doing is replenishing the shirts again with inventory on that same shirt. What if you wanted to get a new shirt? What if you wanted to go into like different types of designs on the shirts and etc. You're going to need money to do that. So I like to have an innovation account, and this is basically like my investment account where I'm investing into new products, right? So from here, I put 30% into taxes. I put 15% into marketing. Same thing for innovation. I'm going to put about 15% into my innovation as well. So 15% of that is $225 again. So I'm taking $225 per shirt for my innovation. And that's 15%. And then I also have one more account that I want to set up as well. I want to also set up my emergency account. Man, this is important. Your business is going to take this as an expense, but guess what? A lot of us have just gone through one of the roughest pandemics that we've ever seen. And I'll tell you, so many businesses crashed and burned because they literally did not have money set aside for an emergency, literally a reserve account. Meaning if anything goes wrong and things hit the fan, I got a reserve account established to be able to float me for the next 6 to 8 months. We can't expect on the government to bail us out with PPP loans and etc. You need to have your own reserve account established for this, because if not, I promise you, you never know when you're going to run into hard times, when cash flow gets short, when man, anything can happen. Market could turn. And guess what? You don't got that set up, your business is going to go bye-bye and nobody cares about you. So you better have yourself an emergency account established because it's very important. So I'm going to set an emergency account up, and I'm also going to put I'm probably going to put about 10%. I'm going to leave this at 10%. I would say 15, but I'm going to give it a break. And I'm going to put about, I'm going to put 10% towards this emergency account, or $1.50 per shirt. Okay, that's what I'm doing. $1.50 per shirt. So now I got 10% here. I got 30% in my tax account, 15% marketing, 15% innovation, 10% in my emergency account, which means that now let's just do the calculations here. And that means that altogether from an expense standpoint, yeah, they can still see. That means that altogether from an expense standpoint, after I paid for the actual shirt itself, from an expense standpoint, I got about $10.50 that I'm really pushing towards an expense towards my taxes, my marketing, my innovation, and my emergencies, which means now I'm really breaking down to a deeper profit now. So now that brings me down to a profit of $4.50. And you know what this $4.50 is, ladies and gentlemen? Do you know what this $4.50 actually is? That $4.50 is your money. That's the money that you have to be able to pay yourself per shirt. In the ideal scenario, ideally, that's the money you have to pay yourself per shirt. That's the money that you have to be able to hire, because we didn't even get into hiring. We didn't even get into the labor side of things. We didn't get into like you may need a team and etc. This is now what you're left with after taxes, after marketing, after innovation, after your emergency accounts. This is what you're left with now to be able to pay yourself, to be able to expand, right? Maybe you need to now move into an office location with rent, right? Because if you're getting this low of a profit, odds are you can't afford to have a location unless you're doing crazy numbers. You can't afford to have hiring. You're going to be doing this yourself, right? So I'm going to go a little deeper, and this is why this is important. I'm just exposing this to you guys, so you can understand now your pricing and your margin, so that you know if this is worth your time. So now if I know that it's $4.50 that I'm actually left with, let's ask ourselves a question now. Let's ask ourselves a question. Let's just take basic expenses into account, and then I'm going to end this thing out. If the rent is $1,000 per month, right? My rent is $1,000 per month. If I need to hire, let's just say rent and utilities. I'm here in Philadelphia. If rent and utilities, let's say, are $1,500 per month, if I'm here in Philadelphia in the city, let's say I need to hire myself some help, and to hire myself help, I'm pushing off an expense of about $1,000 per month. And then let's just say I want to pay myself, which is, if I want to pay me, which could be hard. Let's say I want to pay myself to be able to offset my bills. Let's say it's going to cost me $2,000 per month. If I want to offset myself and really go full time in this thing, and I can, this is my full time thing. Now that means, okay, $2,000, $3,000, $4,500 that I need to cover per month in order to be able to have rent for a location that I need, for help, for paying myself. And I didn't even take into account the fact that I might also need supplies and everything too. I didn't take that into account. So I'm missing one more thing. See, this business thing is crazy, man. This is why this is important. I didn't even take into account supplies and etc., miscellaneous things that could end up being another $500. So now we're talking $5,000 per month, right, in order to roll. And remember, I'm stuck with $4.50. So now all we got to do is some basic math now, and we say to ourselves, okay, 5,000 divided by $4.50 is now going to tell me 1,111 units. 1,111 units. That's what I'm down to, 1,111 units per month. So if you guys seen, on a weekly basis, I said that you need to do 129 shirts per week. That's if I were just accounting for gross numbers. But as you can see, gross numbers don't even equate to the profitability that's necessary. So we could be basing our business off gross numbers, not realizing everything that goes into account on the back end after you receive your gross. So now, after I really did my adjusted numbers, it's looking like I'm going to need to do about 1,111 units in order to even afford to have rent for space, utilities, supplies, help, and paying myself. And if I don't, then it's not the ideal scenario at this time. And it's not the ideal scenario at this time in order for me to rent a office space. Because some people move into office spaces and say, hey, we're going to make this happen. Not the ideal scenario if you can't afford it. Not the ideal scenario to just get help. Not the ideal scenario to begin paying yourself. These are all things you got to think about. When you're moving into a business, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of finances. And if you don't know your numbers, then you're going to fail yourself. You're going to get yourself into hot water. So I say all of that to say, and I use this lesson for you to slow down before you go jumping in, signing a lease, doing all of this stuff. Slow down, go to the drawing board. Like I said, do exactly as I did on this board. I promise you, do exactly as I did. And then from there, you'll get an accurate assessment. You'll be able to readjust and figure out exactly how much you need to sell or how many services that you need to provide in order for you to get down to an accurate assessment of how the business can run, how you can take care of yourself, how you can begin to hire and grow. And if you don't know this, the LLC is going to fail. With that said, if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Drop a comment below. Give some thoughts on this. If this has opened up your mind, share this with another LLC, somebody who's opening up an LLC or aspiring entrepreneur. Share this with your kids so that they have an understanding of how to break down their numbers and run it from back to front as well, so that they have a better idea. And you can do this, by the way, even in your personal life, not just from a business, your personal life. Because it's not just a business, man. You're a business, right? Your personal life is a business. Do the same thing. I promise you, you're going to start winning at life, and things will start getting very, very fun for you and very easy. That said, I'm Prince Donnell, founder of the Jumping Jack Tax franchise. If you need help with getting your taxes done, you can send help to 267-792-0185. Text help to 267-792-0185. I have a team of expert professionals standing by that can take care of your business taxes for your LLC or your personal taxes as well, and make sure that you're on the right track legally and in compliance. That said, have an amazing day, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.